Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 25th November 2023. My name is TSV Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. HARDAN, Haribol, TSV Nectar, NECTAR, nectar. The full spelling of HARDAN is HARDAN. So the complete name is HARDAN, HARDAN, Haribol, TSV, nectar, NECTAR. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been trying to discuss about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. Kindly subscribe to this vlog and press this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous, present, and future videos. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to the rule of sharing the knowledge and information gleaned from the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. So let us continue with the topic of discussion for today's video. In the past few videos, we have been trying to discuss and analyze the concept of self and the divinity of every human living entity born in this material world in a particular lifetime, whether he or she is a male or a female. In other words, once a living entity realizes that the spirit soul within him or her is equal in spiritual quality to the super soul and the spiritual whole, then he or she may realize the divinity that is lying dormant within him or her in the form of that spirit soul. We have got several examples given by several spiritualists and intellectuals of yore vouching for and authenticating for this particular statement. So let us begin analyzing this self. First, we will talk about a case history. There is a community called Nambudri, which is a very orthodox set of Brahmins in the state of Kerala in the south of India. This particular Nambudri caste is known for its ardent devotion for Lord Shiva. There was one Nambudri Brahmin who was so devoted to Lord Shiva that he was always thinking about that supreme personality of Godhead, Lord Shiva. So much so that because of his intense devotion, he earned the love and respect of Lord Shiva. One day, Lord Shiva asked this very noble and orthodox Nambudri Brahmin a boon that he would like to grant to this devoted Brahmana. Lord Shiva, pleased as he was, ordered or instructed this Brahmana to ask for some boon so that the pleased Lord Shiva would grant him that. This Nambudri Orthodox Brahman was already married for a very long time. He was getting on in age. However, alas, he did not have any offspring. This distraught, saddened, and dejected Brahmana, whose wife was equally unhappy about this, asked for a son or offspring from Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva told this noble Brahmin, I will grant you this boon. However, before granting it, I'd like to ask you to make a choice. Either you have 100 sons of very mediocre intelligence who would live for 100 years each, or you can ask for one son who is as brilliant as me in knowledge, erudition, and experience, but that boy will live only for a very short period. The Brahmana said, as I am already getting on in age, I would prefer to have that particular offspring who will be as brilliant as you but live for a very short period. Lord Shiva smiled at him. Presently, when Lord Shiva had granted such a boon to this humble and noble Brahmana devotee, a son was born to this Brahmana. After a year, one son appeared in the family of this Brahmana. This Brahmana and his wife lovingly named him Shiva or Shankara, which is a synonym of none other than Lord Shiva. Both husband and wife had already been ardent devotees of Lord Shiva, and so they named their son Shankara. When Shankara was 8, this old man left for his heavenly abode. However, as they say, coming events cast their shadows before. This boy, Shankara, even during his tender age, showed signs of brilliance as far as cerebral faculties were concerned. Now he started living with his own mother. However, to the alarm of that noble lady, this boy began showing germs of monkhood right from his childhood. He was very intelligent, cerebrally inclined, erudite, and began getting knowledge which it seemed that he had gleaned from his own superconscious memory, besides studying in the present birth. It is now claimed by spiritualists of yore that this boy was actually a partial incarnation of none other than Lord Shiva. However, this boy's incarnation publicized and marketed the concept of devotion to the Lord, and that to Lord Krishna or Govinda. When this boy was 16 years old, he attained complete monkhood and left his hometown in Kerala. This boy, because of his brilliance, began participating in spiritual and intellectual discussions all over the country of India, and usually he won. This took this young boy to North India, where he had an intellectual and spiritual discussion and debate with another very great spiritualist called Mandan Mishra. Mandan Mishra was not only spiritually and intellectually very superior, but his wife was also equally knowledgeable, or in fact, more knowledgeable than Mandan Mishra. It is said that the parrot which was hanging in a cage outside Mandan Mishra's house discussed spiritualism between the two parrots which were pets of Lord of Mandan Mishra. This boy, Shankara, was by now being called Shankaracharya because of his erudition and spiritual intellectual superiority, got into a spiritual debate with Mandan Mishra and promptly defeated him. Then Mandan Mishra invited Shankara to have an intellectual debate with his own wife. was also spiritually and intellectually inclined. Shankara agreed. He was still a bachelor and a celibate by the time he entered into a debate with this noble lady. Shankara showed his superiority of knowledge about every other subject except when this lady invited him to discuss on cohabitation and copulation between a male and a female. Shankara put down his arms temporarily. He was very frank to admit that he had no particular knowledge about this particular subject because he had always been a bachelor and he had had no physical relationship with the fairer and opposite sex. This lady said that then it can I presume that I have won this debate. Shankaracharya told this woman, I would rather that you give me a permission to leave my gross body for 6 months, go into the ether, learn about this particular subject, and come back. Then, once I have attained that knowledge and I enter into my body again, we can continue with this debate. The noble lady agreed. Shankara left his body at the backyard of Mandan Mishra's house and left it for good for a period of 6 months to gather knowledge about this particular subject. His soul and subtle bodies wandered in the space for some time. Then, when he traveled further north, he found that the king of Kashmir had expired that very same day. Everyone was mourning at the corpse of this noble king. Shankaracharya found this opportune moment to enter the mortal remains of that king. The others were very surprised to find the dead king get alive again. They did not know the reason for this miracle. Shankaracharya remained in the body of this king for 6 months and he had this experience of cohabitating with the wives and concubines of that king for another 6 months. In that process, he learned about this subject quite well. 6 months later, he left the body of that king again and came back to his own original body, which was being preserved by Mandar Mishra and his wife in the backyard of their own house. Shankaracharya came back to this body and he found that something was amiss. The fact was, Mandan Mishra had become extremely angry and upset when he was defeated in an intellectual and spiritual debate with Shankaracharya. As a result of this, though he ate humble pie during the period when Shankaracharya was alive in that period before the 6 months, as soon as Shankaracharya asked Mandan Mishra and his wife to keep his body in the backyard safely till this man went into the space to attain knowledge about sex. Mandan Mishra saw this opportune moment to incite or inject a particular physical malady called Bhagandar into the body of Shankaracharya. However, 6 months later, when Shankaracharya's subtle body and soul returned to that gross body, Shankaracharya realized immediately what had occurred during his absence. He knew by now that Mandan Mishra has done it. But Shankaracharya, being what he was able to come over this physical malady through his own spiritual superiority and intellectual wisdom. He was safe, healthy, and sound once again. This gave Mandan Mishra an extraordinary tinge of guilt, and his conscience became very inimical towards Mandan Mishra. It blamed him for his meanness. Shankaracharya, meanwhile, came back into this body, entered into a debate with the same wife, and defeated her in this subject of cohabitation and copulation between male and female bodies. Once he had done so, he was victorious in every subject pertaining to materialism and spiritualism. Shankaracharya did not blame Mandan Mishra, and he left for good for the time being. Mandan Mishra had extraordinary pangs of guilt within himself because he himself was also spiritually inclined. Mandan Mishra decided to give up his own wretched life by getting into a pile of hay and letting that pile of hay burn in fire. He lit that fire and burnt his own body slowly and painfully through this punishment to his own sight and gave up his life. Shankaracharya left Mandan Mishra's house and went on his tour into this Indian subcontinent, winning debates after debates of the intellectual and spiritual variety with other intellectuals and spiritualists in the country. Ultimately, he reached the top of the country. From there, he began returning along with his little number of followers. These followers were as ardent devotees of Shankaracharya as they were of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shankaracharya was not only 30, not even 32 by that time. He was extremely young, yet he managed to establish 4 or 5 centers of spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and erudition in the 4 or 5 directions of India. These ashramas are known as Kedarnath or Badrinath in the north, Dwarika in the west, Puri in Orissa or east, and Sringeri in the state of Karnataka in south. He also established one spiritual ashrama in the state of Tamil Nadu or Madras province in the south. These ashramas, though they are around 1000 to 2000 years old, still exist and are flourishing. They have got huts and seers for every ashrama. Shankaracharya gave up his illustrious spiritual and divine life by the time he was just 32. But he, in the meantime, proved to the humanity how much one person can do within such an early age. Lord Shiva was pleased with his own devotee, and he had given a boon to this Brahmana Nambudiri to have one offspring who would be as divine as Lord Shiva. This is one example where one individual living entity who had realized himself as the spirit soul found out the dormant divinity within his own soul and could take the risk and the intellectual advice of the super soul to achieve such an impossible or next to impossible spiritual mission as to open 5 different spiritual centers in this Indian subcontinent. So divine were they that they still exist as pillars of knowledge, education, spiritualism, and contemplation on material items. The seers, devotees, followers, and intellectuals who are attached to any of these ashramas are as exalted as the original Shankaracharya himself. They expound the knowledge that had been originated from Shankaracharya, and they spread that spiritual knowledge into this international world. They have devotees and followers all over the world, and people of all walks of life, communities, castes, etc., have benefited from the intellectual superiority and knowledge of such great men from the Shankara ashram. This is all I wanted to say to prove that if one individual, ordinary living entity can decide and take it as his or her mission in life, he or she can achieve such very, very seemingly impossible purposes of life and spirituality at such an early age. Blessed are those who complete their mission in a lifetime at very early age. It has been said time and again that those who die young are loved by God, or those who God's love die young. Dying young is not half as necessary as dying after completing your spiritual mission in life, just like Lord Shankaracharya. This is all I wanted to say in this particular video and case history. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular matter. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, ideas, and views so that I may blend everything for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon Kindle and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan